Hello, I'm Toycat, and welcome back to our second channel geopolitical video. Today I wanted to talk about Belarus, which isn't something we get to say often enough, but Belarus has been in the news a fair bit recently because of the thousands of migrants they've been escorting to the Polish border, or rather 1,000 migrants, or you could say that as hundreds of migrants, but either way there is a big clash between Belarus and Poland because Belarus is being this really nice guy by helping a lot of people who want to get into Europe come over to the European border, and Poland is saying, oh no, that's real bad, and has sent 12,000 troops to the region to stop these 1,000 people illegally going into the country. And so on the surface, this just seems like it's a human, human rights, human welfare issue, I guess you could say. Like, yeah, it sucks for those thousands of people, including children, that are being caught in this crisis. And that is definitely a level of this story too. But there's this also other interesting part of it that, like, actually, those migrants aren't just people who are trying to get into Europe by some random means. Those are tourists that are very deliberately being planted by Belarus as kind of a sanction against the EU, because the EU is maybe a little less than pleased with Belarus, and Belarus is showing that they can make the EU just a little bit harder in terms of their lives, and let's explain why with today's video. So first of all, here is Belarus. You might know it as one of Europe's last dictatorships. At the very least, there are elections that don't seem free and fair from the outside, although if you're Alexander Lukashenko, you'd say no. Fair elections, I just happen to win by ludicrous margins, and I also happen to, arrest and sometimes murder my opposition. You know, again, it's, who knows which side is really true? Is he a dictator, or is he just liked by that much of the population? Who knows for sure? Anyway, so he's got this, view right here that we used to catch migrants in droves. Now forget it, you'll be catching them yourselves. This was in response to the EU putting sanctions on Belarus. Belarus is just a small country trying to do its thing, and obviously by being on the EU border, it has a lot of trade with not just Russia, probably its biggest trading partner, but also it needs to deal with Ukraine, and it needs to deal with the EU as a whole. And so when the EU as a whole was unhappy with Belarus, like they were when, say, he forced the diversion of a Ryanair jet over a fake terror threat just so they could take an opposition journalist and his girlfriend and arrest them because he was trying to avoid their territory. You know, it's a whole mess. Anyway, so because the EU was very mad about this, using international treaties for personal gain, not even personal gain, political gain to stay in power because he's that scared of opposition journalists, they were very upset. And so Belarus said, oh, you think that, we're just going to stand up for your sanctions? Well, again, as Lukashenko says, we used to catch the migrants and now we won't. But instead he goes a step further and he makes, he simplifies visa proceedings for tourists from Iraq. That's right, if you're a tourist from Iraq and you want to go see the great sights of Belarus, then good news, Lukashenko is making it easier. Ignore the convenient timing on why, ignore the fact that how many Iraqis genuinely want to go see Minsk. We'll ignore those details. Again, there's not a lot of crossover, but a lot of Iraqis are, funnily enough, taking advantage of this. Maybe partially because there's a whole network of people helping them get into buses and cars heading straight for the Polish border, but, there's nothing they can do about it, and so all of these migrants that are coming to Belarus would like to go to Poland, and so what happens when they get there? Oh, this is what happens. So, this is one of those fascinating cases of these people who are genuinely, I'll admit, they're seeking a better life, being given an opportunity by a country outside the EU just to harass the EU. Because, the instant case here is obviously the EU would rather they get their refugees, their migrants in legal ways. I think every country would rather have legal rather than illegal migration. If you're going to have, we can all have debates about how much immigration should be allowed, but everyone generally agrees, like, let's try and have, even if you're like super pro-migration, you're like, yeah, just make it all legal, because illegal migration is this very interesting hot button issue. And the EU, by being a Schengen area, so the blue countries are all in a single borderless area, means that if you are in Poland, let's say, you can walk straight to Italy, no border checks required. You can walk straight to, say, Germany, as indeed a lot of these people are specifically saying, they're chanting they would like to go to Germany, and so what are you going to do besides maybe put up a giant fence at the border, obviously send 12,000 troops, and then lead to some of the more distressing images that people are looking at. Here's some news straight from the Polish... Oh, God. Anyway, as you can see, it's kind of crazy because now these random people who genuinely are seeking a better life are working on Belarus's behalf. Belarus has not done anything wrong. They're just helping tourists get in their country, but they're also indirectly attacking the EU, right? If they sent their own troops or even state-sanctioned people, that would be a big, declaration of war, effectively. But they're not declaring war. They're just letting some tourists go over to the Europe's border, and then they're just not doing anything to stop them because, again, they used to stop them, but you guys got mad at us because we diverted a jet just because it had, just because we made a fake hijacking plot and put at risk the whole safety of, anyone inside Europe, and, we can hide, if we just ignore the bad things that we did, then we can go back to catching those migrants that we've conveniently made a much worse problem. It is, I have to admit, it is very smart geopolitical games from the up high perspective, but it is kind of messed up right there. So the other reason that so there's lots of other layers of politics at play here, which I find fascinating, because the Dublin regulation means that any time a migrant comes into a country, or refugee or anything like that, they have to be fingerprinted and they have to be registered in the country of entry. This puts a lot of extra pressure on the border states, namely Greece, Bulgaria, Poland, depending on, obviously, Spain in some cases, to do that. And this obviously means that, like, if you say find a migrant in Sweden, they can't claim the whole refugee thing because they've had to cross via Germany, France, and Spain, which are all safe countries, right? So, if we're trying to do the human rights thing, as you are legally required to do under the UN and under the Geneva Convention too, it sounds like. But even though you are legally required to protect people if they would otherwise be at risk from deporting them, obviously you're not required to let people be wherever they want to be. In the same way that my government is required to protect me from, being shot by strangers. But if I break into Buckingham Palace, I can't be like, no, I'm only safe here. They're like, you'll be safe outside Buckingham Palace. No, I won't be. And so, yeah, the same thing applies there. It's very controversial. Even that way I explained it is probably going to attract some weird attention, because to some people it's like, no, people, it doesn't matter what EU country they're in, we should have it be more fairly spread. And some people say no, the border states are the ones that deal with that. So that's where the whole crisis is in the EU regarding, like, ooh, how do we deal with this, how do we not? Being one single borderless area means that these 12,000 people, these 1,000 migrants that are being met by 12,000 police, this is an issue not only, it's not available on this device. This is a PC. What device would this be available on? Anyway, so this is an issue not only for Poland, but for the whole EU as a whole. And interestingly enough, although Poland is doing a good job to stop it right now, they built a fence all along the border. Just to show you, by the way, because I think it's fascinating that Belarus mostly had a fence before. One of my favorite, if you look at the borders of Belarus, one of the weird quirks of it. So there's areas like this, where, like, Belarus goes really slightly inside, but there's also this area of Lithuania, where, as you can see, it's only, at its thinnest point, it's only 2.7 kilometers wide. But the road in Lithuania goes this close to Belarusian territory, and if you look on the road, because Google Street View's been here, you can see that Belarus has fenced off their stuff, making sure that you do not go there. Maybe, they're less inclined to do the same when there are tourists actively heading in a direction, which is fascinating that now people are able to be used in this way. But also what's fascinating is the fact that Poland then has now its own issues to deal with, because obviously Poland is doing a good job so far at probably stopping these people coming in. They realistically are not aiming to go to Poland, they're aiming to go to other EU countries, and so now Poland has extra leverage because the EU is very upset with Poland. Respect the club rules. There's a really interesting dispute here about, like, because the EU is made up of countries should do what they want. However, one of the rules of joining the EU is you have to be a democracy and follow rule of law, which means law needs to be, whatever, so you need to have that. But Poland is trying to slightly go incompatible in that way. They've gone down a bit of a fun rabbit hole on one of the sides of the political spectrum. And they've basically, as a result, the EU is not giving them money. Interesting enough, it's not COVID money they're not giving them, because they're like, hey, until you guys make rule of law work, you don't get your 57 billion euros. And so, it's a very fascinating dispute that Poland's having, because Poland's just not doing anything. Like, no, we believe that we should be able to do that stuff ourselves as an independent country, and the EU goes, no, but because the EU laws do take supremacy over national laws, regardless of how national or federalist or not federalist it is. Oh, my food arrived. But it's very interesting. So the last thing I want to say right here before we go is that obviously this is the most fascinating case of, like, in the modern world, waging war isn't really an option, at least in Europe. You see some parts of the world, looking at you guys over there, where sure, war is to some extent an option, but more and more we're seeing the same tools that we would use for war being shifted to other places. And so yeah, on the one hand, it's horrific. It is a humanitarian crisis that Belarus is just letting people into the country as a way to get back at the EU. Like, it's bad for everyone involved, but people are taking the option, even knowing they're a part of that, because it's, you know, it's a better chance than not, right? Yeah, it just goes to show that, like, in the same way, when Russia invaded Ukraine, it was just random. I think I'm gonna have to take, you know what? I'm sorry, internet. Hello? Okay, now my food has arrived and I'm really hungry. I've changed my opinion about what's actually happening here. I was thinking about it, right? And clearly, even though this looks like it's a ploy about, ooh, we don't like being sanctioned because we like our economy, actually, I was looking up for a video recently. There's a lot of stairs I have to go down and then climb back up. I swear I'm not out of shape. Anyway, so I was looking at a list of countries by obesity rate. As you can see, right down here at 58th is Belarus. And they're probably upset that Poland's down here at 69. How do you get Poland to be above you in the obesity ranks so you can be the skinnier country? Think about it. You get a ton of tourists from a country in a higher country on that list. Ooh, here's Syria at number 35. Ooh, what's that? Where's Iraq? It's at 23 with a rate of 30.40. And you get as many of those to go into Poland as possible, inflating their obesity statistics until finally you can be the skinniest country in Eastern Europe again. I'm just saying, it's clearly what they're doing right there. But no, more seriously, I hope you'll enjoy this video. Try to ignore my conspiracy theory about obesity rates at the end. Also, try to ignore. A few people have like asked about the sling when it's shown up before. So just in case you're curious, I was going to explain it, but then I realized rather than trying to explain it normally, this whole channel's about maps, right? I could be like, well, there was a bit of an incident. I went to the hospital. They gave me one of these things. I don't know how it helps, but rather than trying to explain all of that to you, how about instead I show you this handy map of countries I have injured myself on an e-scooter. And suspiciously, it seems as though the UK has been added to this map in the last week. So yeah, I have a bit of a I have a few injuries, it seems, but you know what I don't have as far as injuries. Actually, do you want to see the place? You know, these videos go off topic, but that's fine. Before we leave the end of the video here, in case you're curious as to where I injured myself, I was in Mexico City on an e-scooter. Not a particularly fast one of the random rental ones. And just, I know somewhere like south of here, like call it Transito. I was just going down a random street at an intersection, wait, you know, green light had just gone or something like that. And not one of these streets. It was way bigger. Like Mexico City has insanely wide roads when it wants to have them. But I know it was a grid intersection, something like this maybe. And yeah, I went and I was going, and then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, there were these giant, like, look at this. I don't understand why in, like, even, like, second world countries, like, even in medium developed countries, there are just holes in the road this big. And yeah, the scooter, the wheel got trapped in the hole, so then it, like, flung me over the handlebars. It was pretty bad. And the same thing happened, but because I broke too hard. And so yeah, this is Toycat officially denouncing e-scooters. They've caused me 2 injuries now. Alternatively, rather than doing the whole boring, here's the countries I visited map, how about I try and get this map to include every country on Earth? That's my new goal in life, I've decided. Speaking of goals in life, did you know that you can go to patreon.com/Toycat and, no, more seriously, okay, so I uploaded this video, right? It was gonna be called something like, oh wait, this is the wrong tab. I uploaded this video, let me find it for you. It was called something along the lines, do you want to see my YouTube statistics? Here you go. Talking about weird place names for 25, oh, I can't see the full title. It was called something like, yeah, talking about weird place names for 25 minutes, but I just wasn't happy with how it went. I was like, yeah, wasn't a good video. I just mocked places for 25 minutes. And so I figured, you know how most patrons are like, yeah, you want to see the real premium content? It's behind a paywall. I'm going to do the opposite. Again, I've always been transparent about it on this channel. Rather than trying to take things away from you, it's like, no. This is, instead of getting high premium content that only people who pay can have access to, if you contribute to the Patreon at any level, you can see my absolute lowest quality content. Content so bad that even on this channel, where I say second channel don't care, I was like, ooh, probably wasn't worth a upload. And so yeah, would you like to see me talk about dumb place names and make fun of them? I bet you would. I'm just kidding, of course you don't. But no, I hope you enjoyed this video. Thank you to everyone who does support me over there. There's a bonus video for you. You don't watch it. It genuinely is not worth doing so. And yeah, I hope that we can add many more countries to this map one day. And hopefully, you know, fewer countries to the map of countries trying to antagonize the EU by sending migrants over the border. Because I feel like no one wins in this arrangement besides literally one guy, and the one guy has a bit of a funny mustache, so I'm not happy for his victory there. Speaking of victories, thank you for watching. Second channel, don't care. Goodbye.